do. We have to keep the Q&A kind of short. There's another movie coming in here, but we are going to be out in the hall. We've got some materials out in the hall, some action cards, things that you yourself can do, phone numbers to call, email addresses, stuff like that. Also out in the hall is my book, co-written with my sister, also titled Don't Kill My Horseback. So please check those out. So if there's any quick questions before we continue on.
Yeah, I have a question. It's obvious the evidence is in. The people who need to know, and our current administration doesn't give a shit about this. So my question revolves around the Chinese oil connection and the fact that China owns the largest part of our national debt. Do you think this could be a critical factor in why no action is taking place and none probably will?
Well, I think there's two parts to that question, and I want to hit the first one. I'm going to pass on the China oil issue to these gentlemen over here. There's one reason specifically that our administration isn't doing anything, and that's, I mean, one reason. There's many reasons, but one of them is because we are a democracy, and that everybody in here isn't writing their congressmen and senators, and isn't calling them on the phone, and isn't standing up and saying, I want to hear about Sudan in the news every single day. You buy the newspapers, you watch the news, you tell them what you want to hear. And until we all stand up together and say, hey, this is an important issue for us, we're not going to be able to empower our representatives to do something. So that's one part about that, is that we've all got to call them, we've got to tell them what's going on. There are some other issues for sure. We can get a little bit more in depth. If you want to hit me out in the hall, we can talk about intelligence, we can talk about Al-Qaeda, we can do all that stuff. It's a long question, so we'll definitely talk about that. I'll be out there. But I want to pass it on to the Chinese oil over these guys.
Yeah, I would just simply say Samantha Power, who's a genocide expert, has written widely on the issue, was recently interviewed and was asked, how do we pressure the Chinese government? And she responded, the best way to pressure the Chinese government is through Chinese companies. And well, because of long-standing sanctions, U.S. companies are largely forbidden from operating in Sudan through our state pension funds, mutual funds. We do invest heavily in these Chinese companies. And to my right is Representative Corbin Van Arsdale from the Texas State Legislature, and he is sponsoring a bill. Senate companion is going to be heard tomorrow.
Well, I'm not a foreign policy expert, but I'm just telling you, I've never had a constituent tell me to do anything about this. I'm just doing this because I've learned about it myself. And most of the legislators I know that are compelled to do something about this, they're not hearing from their constituents either. This is a legislator-to-legislator movement, and so we need the people to be more involved in this. It does make, what you said on one of these TV shows about the handwritten letter, that is absolutely true. When you write a handwritten letter to your elected official, that comes to your desk, you see with your own two eyes. So I would encourage you all to do that. You know, this bill, I think if Texas is able to pass this, you know, I travel around the world. People know that Texas is a conservative state. They know that Texas is President Bush's state. This would send a big message if we can pass this and just in some way just have the state government not funding these atrocities. So that's what we're trying to do. The hearing's at 11 a.m. tomorrow in the Senate. There'll be another hearing in the House, but any of y'all that can come, the more the better.
I just wanted to tell you a very quick story about the refugee. His name is Adam Musa, who you saw walking away crying. He has such faith in America that he actually renamed his son George Bush. And he's one of the people that we're going to be supporting through this film. He actually has an idea to start a human rights library in his refugee camp. Proceeds from this film are going to be going through our organization, Global Grassroots, to help realize those dreams of those refugees. But that example, I think, is very important for us today, because we really do have a very significant responsibility here. What you'll have a chance to pick up on your way out is an action card. It's got the phone number of the White House on it. They're going to listen to you. Please call the White House. There are two tools that we also think are pretty important. DarfurScores.org will give you information about your congressmen and your senators, about how they're doing on this issue, so that you can write them a letter. and SudanDivestment.org. These guys are doing a tremendous job all over the country to help put the economic pressure on this issue as well. So do take whatever you can to make a difference.
One more.
What sort of distribution do you have for this film?
We hope soon that we'll be announcing that this one will be in theaters near you. We've actually been really excited by the support that we've had. It's a tricky film to take out, and thank you so much for spending time watching it, because it's people like you who spread the word, and we will hopefully be opening theaters midsummer. But we are going to be doing a really extensive educational outreach campaign with it as well, universities, schools everywhere. So.
You know, I can't not say anything, but people know about Darfur. You know, I mean, what makes you think that we know that Americans are dying in Iraq? What makes you think that the American people, knowing about this, are going to be able to do anything? You know, I mean, our government knows about Americans dying in Iraq, and we're so thinking that it can, that the people can make this huge difference. You know, we're not even doing anything about it. We're so into our own. What's happening for our own, so to speak? I mean, all people are our own.
Sure, I'll talk about our own, because I served. I served
Right.
4.5 years in the Marine Corps, and I signed up to go do the bidding of this country, so that the people in this room can sit here, so the people in this room can be safe. The majority of the people that I talk to, my friends that are serving in Iraq, friends that I served with, people that I know who are serving there, believe they're still trying to do a good job. They're still trying to protect those people over there. Now, does everybody want us in Iraq? Absolutely not. People in Sudan tell me they want nothing more than American troops on the ground. They don't want anybody else. They don't want the UN. They don't want the NATO there. They want to see the stars and stripes on their shoulders. Why? Because they believe that we are good people. Because they believe that we will protect them. They say, can you please come save us like the people of Afghanistan and the people of Iraq? That's what they tell them. That's what they tell us. So it's not a large majority. Now we can continue this out in the hall. It's not a large majority of the population in Iraq that doesn't like us. You know, I talk to people and they say, yeah, I've never been on an operation where I walk down the street and kids come running out of houses to give me flowers. It's what our news agency shows us, and I understand that there are Americans dying there. I understand that. Some of my friends, I understand that.
Right.
But
I have a big respect for I house homeless veterans for 10.5 years. I mean, I have a respect for that. But, you know.
I think there's, I mean, we can continue this. I think there's a little bit of difference between a serviceman who signs up to go protect, to go carry a gun, and someone whose house is being bombed by a government that wants to exterminate a people. I think there's a little bit of difference there. And I don't like to see anybody die. I don't like to see my friends die, and I don't like to see others die. But you know, it's kind of hard for me to equate 400, 500,000 people dead because of the color of their skin and what tribe they came from, and privileged Americans who have signed up to go serve in the armed forces. It's a voluntary service to go serve in Iraq. To me, it's a little bit of a different argument. So.
The only thing that I wanted to add to that is I think that one of the difficulties in looking at a situation like Darfur from either foreign policy perspective, or even just as a humanitarian, or someone who has hope that there could be successful humanitarian intervention, we don't have any good models. I mean, there's military invasion. We have very few models for countries, to basically, the UN respects national sovereignty. I feel like Iraq and Darfur are very separate situations. And I really do believe that we have the possibility to work, with international partners, with the ICC, with targeted sanctions, to actually hopefully do good in an intervention. So that's one of the reasons why I actually believe that this film hopefully will have an impact on educating people to look at potential ways to make a better difference. So.
Thanks for being on the hall.